Hello, Happy New Year to you. I know I've seen most of you at this point. But yes, this is the first of our weekly calls that I'll do, sort of just extra coaching calls once a week on a Wednesday. And I'm buttoned up, but I'm sat with my door open. I'm going to show you because it's so nice. I've got my door open and I'm just looking out of the garden and the sun and listening to the birds sing. I don't know why I'm not cold after last week. Maybe this feels balmy. I don't know. But I'm making the most of it. So I hope you can hear a little bit of bird song in the background. It makes a change from me having my fan in the background, which is what I'm usually doing. Right then. So what I want to talk about today is easing into January and just a little bit about how we're all finding it, because I have you know, caught up with quite a few of the ladies on the program over the past couple of weeks, and I'm sort of continuing to do that over the next couple of weeks. And it's fair to say that there's been a few common things, and I include myself in this. And those two main things are: one, we feel the pressure to very quickly get 100% back on top of our routines. And two, January is a really hard month and we struggle. Okay. So I want to just share my views on this and give you some ideas and recommendations for easing yourself back into it, because that's what I want you to do. And I want you to know that it's okay to ease into January. And I'd pretty much say nearly everyone I speak to thinks they're late to the party in getting their act together or getting back to the workouts or getting the meals all planned in. But let me just tell you that you're not. We're all guilty. But we're all in the same position. And, knowing that this is a shared experience actually is really valuable, because it just normalizes it and hopefully makes you feel like it's okay to take your time getting back up to speed. And I just want to sort of roll back a little bit and talk about where I feel like the pressure comes from, because it comes externally. We always put ourselves under a lot of pressure, but it comes externally. January is a time of year where it's all about, New Year's resolutions. The dieting industry have a field day. And even if we don't see things so much now, haven't really noticed much on either myself, but it's something that we've grown up with, and it's sort of a very sort of well-established pattern in our mind. And then there's also the idea that we should feel guilty about overeating at Christmas. And again, that's really deeply ingrained, that we, always feel like we've gone over the top, or there's a bit of guilt or remorse, or I don't know, embarrassment, shame. Everyone's going to be different in terms of how they would describe their emotions around what Christmas was like. And that's, again, that can be quite hard to flip out of. So just a couple of things to think about, on particularly with Christmas, is that every single person has had the most wonderful Christmas. We've had each of us have had Christmas in a different way, but for all of us, it's been wonderful in the sense of, we've had a break from that routine. Some people haven't had a very long break, but there's been moments where there's been a break from routine and opportunities to relax, to let ourselves go a bit, be with family, go with the flow, just let go of that sort of control that we sort of try and maintain all the time. And, if we think about it, that sort of celebratory eating, and celebrating certain times of year, or celebrating events with family and friends and stuff like that, is just a really normal part of being a human. And I'm no historian. But I know that's going to go back hundreds and hundreds of years. Yeah. And we have to learn to be okay with natural variations in what we eat. A lot of the time, and I have to sort of take some accountability here for the fact that a lot of the time, the message that I'm pushing is about consistency. But there's consistency and flexibility. And maybe that should be something I make more effort with in this year coming, just to make sure that we understand the difference between flexibility and consistency, because we are looking at creating a consistent eating pattern for a fair chunk of the year. But we do have the flexibility to change. We don't have to eat the same amount of food, the same meals, the same amount of calories, the same amount of protein on a week by week basis, 52 weeks of the year. That would be incredibly dull. And really, if you had the choice to be able to do that easily, would you? I don't think I would. I enjoy that variation. I enjoy that, dropping of routine. I love going back to a routine. And I know a few of you have said the same thing, actually really look forward to doing it. And sometimes part of the frustration in January can be the fact that we really want to get back to the routine for the right reasons, but just it's a little bit hard. So it's okay to be okay with natural variations in what you eat. And I think it's a good time to just sort of reflect on that right now, because, before we know it, it'll be half term, and then it's Easter, and then the holidays start. People start going away when the weather gets better. And there are equally times where we need to be able to welcome this flexible approach and allow ourselves just to go with the flow a little bit more, and enjoy that break from routine and use it as a positive, see it as a positive thing. And, so after Christmas, feeling like a bit more bloated or there's a bit of weight gain is fine, but really it's actually quite temporary. And good proportion of what you might gain in weight over Christmas is going to be temporary. And so what if it is or if it isn't, good, that will go in a few weeks of returning back to normalized eating. And that said, I just want to just acknowledge that some of the pressure around eating at Christmas comes from the environment we live in. A lot of processed food, there can be a lot of social pressure, there can be a lot of pressure from supermarkets, pushing food on us to have more and more for profits. And something that practically everyone I've spoken to so far, a few people I've still got to catch up with, has said that this Christmas felt different and that they did eat more than normal, but it felt different. It felt a bit more mindful. They felt like they made more conscious choices and had a little bit more control, and maybe a little bit more restraint than, other years. And when they've talked about that, they've very much put that in a positive context, in the sense that it felt natural, and they were just that mindfulness is a nice word that comes up, really. And it wasn't something that led to feeling guilty, or it wasn't something that led to not being able to fully enjoy Christmas as much. It was just about being in charge and not being overruled by this greedy primitive brain that sees sugar or crisps or whatever it is and just says, go for it. And, if you notice that, then that is a massive win. Forget about how much you ate, forget about weight, that mindset is enormous, because that is a sign of a really vital mindset change. So just, again, just take a minute and just think, did you recognize that? Because that's incredible. That really is. And I know that's something that people have been on holiday and recognized, because that is huge. One of the things that we also want to do is to stop making ourselves feel guilty when we eat more or after we've eaten more. So that can be a normal thing. And again, nearly everyone I've spoke to has expressed, I feel like I'm Catholic. It makes sense. I feel like I'm in a confession box, that people are almost confessing to me that they ate more, or they overate, or, in this sense of this guilt that you carry around with you all the time. And again, that's something that we always, the language is around that, we can always feel that, but it's worth knowing, and it's important to just remind yourself that you don't have to feel guilty. And in fact, it just really doesn't help. So the idea that we just, things that we're working towards over time with this is, challenging our old preconceptions or our old conditioning, and trying to let go of that idea of feeling guilty is really important, because there'll be lots of times in the next 12 months or the rest of your life where you'll eat more for whatever reason and you'll feel guilty, but there's just really no point. It just does nothing. Feeling guilty never made anyone change their eating habits. Feeling guilty never made anyone lose weight successfully. It's just pointless, So let's just work together collectively to sort of try and drop that over the next, however long you stay here for. But that should be something that we just try and remove. And when we catch ourselves, maybe it's just a gentle reminder to say, oh, that's me feeling guilty again. There's no need. And just correct yourself and move on. because and just taking away that guilt, that in itself is a really powerful change that helps us break that cycle of feeling like we have to go into January on a diet. Whether we're successful at doing that or not, it almost doesn't matter. That pressure's there that makes us feel that we should be doing it. And if we're struggling with it, we're feeling guilty anyway because we can't achieve that. And if we are managing to sort of go into January and have a bit of a diet for a few days or a few weeks, well, it's very likely to fail if we're going into hard dieting. It's a tough month. And, it's going to mean that we're just more likely to fail if we're feeling hungry, if we're feeling deprived, if we're not enjoying our food, we're just going to struggle. We're going to stop. We're going to feel worse about ourselves. And then that guilt comes straight back. Okay. So we just want to let go of all that. And we want to let go of the idea that we should be trying to make up for what we ate at Christmas in some way, because we don't. We're just trying to go back to normal in the sense of Christmas is done, over, amazing. We loved it, and that's a temporary way of doing things. Yeah, that's nobody's normal life. So question then would be, is how do we approach January then? And I think one of the first things is and I've said this to quite a few people, is just recognizing that there's a huge gear shift from Christmas to the first week or two of January. It's really big change. And it can take a couple of weeks for routines to actually get back to normal. Usually people feel like they're looking forward to getting back into getting to January and getting back to normal. You hear that a lot, but the reality of it is we don't always manage it. People with kids, the kids cannot be going back to school until the second week in January. People can have busy work things scheduled in. Bosses can get all everyone's sort of full of beans and trying to get stuff done, so demands on your time can be quite high. There's people having jobs in the house. I know a few people have been ill, so there's all sorts of things that are just going to throw a spanner in the works that are going to stop you from maybe just sort of starting on the 2nd of January with this perfect plan and sort of gliding into the new year. So it's fine to actually allow yourself to take your time to just ease into it and just make small changes, and more than anything, just take the pressure off yourself and allow yourself to go with the flow a little bit more in January and build up, just allow yourself to acclimatize almost to going back to normal, because short days, we've had that terrible cold spell. So it's tough for lots of reasons. And one of the things that has worked really well for everyone is, and me as well, is using the January as a time to really reflect on your goals and what's important for you. And no one that I've spoken to so far has felt like that's a chore. It's felt like a really nice, indulgent thing to sit down with a cup of coffee or a tea, a bit of peace and quiet, a piece of, a book, a piece of paper, and just write things down and reflect on what you want and reflect on what you find hard, or reflect about what you would want to change. That feels like a really lovely, indulgent, relaxing exercise. People are really enjoying having time to yourself to think about yourself properly for once. So that's been a really nice thing to do in January. And it's not quite sitting alongside a New Year's resolution in that sense of suddenly having to just commit to doing something that's really tough that puts more pressure on you. It's actually quite a nice thing to just think about where you are. And for those of you yet to do it, or for those of you who've done it but maybe feel like you've got a bit to think about, don't feel the pressure that you have to sit down in an hour or half an hour and knock out some deep, meaningful goals, because that's really just not going to happen. Or it might do, but it may not. To find things that have real meaning, you need to sort of let yourself mull it over and sit down and think about some of the answers. So again, it's a nice exercise in patience, in taking the pressure off yourself, in just letting things settle and work out, and asking yourself questions and letting the answers come to you over time, because they do. That's how our brain works. And one of the things that it's really done for everyone is help to reframe their goals. And one of the things that's really powerful is creating a bigger goal than just weight loss. Now, nobody is here in this program who hasn't at one point said to me, and again, I include myself in this, they want to lose weight, and everyone's got different amounts. Some people have got relatively small amounts, some people have got more, but we've all got that in common, that we've expressed a desire to lose weight. But we often then can start to backtrack away from that or not make progress on that. And this is something that I've just observed with, probably 99% of the people that I've worked with over the past 4 or 5 years since I've been doing this. It's not the most important goal. We might feel that we need to lose weight for health, or we're worried about our weight increasing over time, and legitimately it would be something that would be beneficial to us, but it's not the main driver. It's almost like a secondary benefit of making lifestyle changes that are designed to do something else. And that's what this refocus exercise has done really well, is helping people and helping you to get in touch with what really is important to you. And finding something that becomes so personal and so powerful, you can't not make the changes in your life. And I don't know if you watched the video of me talking about my goals and what was driving me, and I was close to tears, and which was something I was very uncomfortable with, but I sort of posted it anyway, because it shows you that there are really important things in our lives in terms of our future health, and what that future health will look like if we do make positive changes versus if we don't. Yeah. And when we really think about that, that can be what really drives us and motivates us. And I feel that that's really vital, actually, because let's be honest, change is hard. Breaking old habits is hard. The discipline around meal planning, exercise, and all those things, and eating protein, and checking the menu of the restaurant before you go, they're all hard things. There has to be a big enough payoff or an important enough thing at stake for us to do those hard things, because our lives are hard already. And if we pick the wrong thing, and if we just make it about weight when that's not really important enough on its own, then we won't do them. So that time to spend reframing your goals is so valuable and so important. And that can also help take the pressure off the idea to do things immediately, in the sense of it's not a 4-week lose a stone plan that we're doing. So we can allow ourselves to ease in and make small gradual changes. And for women who are busy and have got stressful lives and lots of commitments, that's really what we need. Yeah. So things that we can then start to consider in January is focusing on just the concept of nutrition, on feeding ourselves good things. And that means, rather than thinking, right, I can't eat any sweets or chocolate now because I've got my body weight in mince pies, we're not having that conversation with ourselves. We're not even going there. We're just thinking, okay, how can I just eat really well now? What's going to make me feel good inside? And what's going to keep me feeling full? And you go back to looking for meals that you're going to really enjoy and are going to be filling. Yeah. We're not talking about what you eat in between, and we're just talking about the positive changes that you can make for yourself. And, something, when we go back into this sort of reflection stage, we realize that we know that when we eat the right things, it makes a huge difference to how we feel. Everyone talks about how great they feel when they're having a good week. Sorry to use that, but you know what I mean, where there's plenty of protein, the meals are filling, you've got stuff that you enjoy, you feel great, your energy levels, your focus, your concentration, you're just operating on a great level, on a different level. That self-control and being mindful about everything feels phenomenal. Okay, so we want to remember those feelings, because that's what we're trying to get back to. That feeling is what drives, is what's more powerful than what the scale says, actually. So focus on nutrition. And then from an exercise point of view, build up on the exercise gradually. Yeah. Everyone's different. Some people are happy to just jump back into the gym. Other people just really can't face it. And know that you don't have to, you're not trying to change yourself so that you love exercising. And that's just something else I just want to talk about, because a lot of us don't. I never really look forward to exercising, to be honest. And look at me, I'm sat in the gym. I could just stand up here and do this presentation and do a few exercises, but I do have to force myself to work out. I do have to make a conscious effort. I'm sort of, go on then, get it over and done with. That's the little conversation I might have. But I know that I've repositioned it to know how important, to make it feel like it's really important to me and to know what the benefits are. And that's probably what I've done all my life. I've told a few people that my dad had a heart attack and a heart when he was 32 and a heart bypass when I was triple bypass when I was 13. So I just grew up knowing that exercise and diet are really important from a health point of view. And that had a lasting impression on me. And that's how I can get past the don't want to or don't feel like it, because I value it and I know it's really important on a deep level. Yeah. And what's also helped me do it is remembering, and 9 times out of 10, if you exercise, you'll feel great after. And I can always think about that. I used to go running and I used to feel actually physically sick when I was sat on my step, lacing up my trainers. But I knew that I'd feel great in 10 minutes or 5 minutes, or when I got back half an hour later. And I've always been able to get to that point of knowing I'm going to feel good. So I'm projecting the good feeling, which helps me get past the resistance. Okay. So that's how I do it. And a good playlist also helps. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about is a really big thing, again, that's come up, is managing stress. And this has been a theme in a lot of the chats, and it might seem a little bit out of scope in a sense of why we're talking about stress when, you're here to get us to eat healthy and do exercise. Well, when you've got too much stress in your life, it becomes a real barrier. It becomes a real blocker. It saps your energy. It makes you want to comfort eat. It can have a huge impact on our ability to stick to plans. And a lot of people really feel under pressure. And I think that's why January can feel difficult, because we've enjoyed that break and that rest from a lot of the stress over Christmas. But then what happens is we come back to January and it comes back again, and we've just relaxed from it a little bit, and it feels quite unpleasant. Maybe unpleasant's too soft a word. And I think a lot of us feel like we're under too much pressure most of the time. So there's a couple of ways to approach this. There's 4 things that I'm just going to mention. One is your ability to control your reaction to stress. There's a lot of stress we can't take away, but we can control how we react to it. And that largely comes from meditation and journaling. So that might be something that you are open to trying, and it's something it never appealed to me. And well, journaling I've always done, but meditation never did. But it has really helped me. And it means that when I'm in a stressful situation, I can take a step back. Not always, but sometimes, and increasingly actually, take a step back and calm my breathing down and have a bit more of a rational approach to it, rather than dive head first into some panic and just get myself in a bit of a state which doesn't change anything. So that's one thing, improving your ability to control stress. The second one is balancing it. Okay. Now that can sometimes feel like an easier entry point. So rather than trying to manage how you react to stress, you're just trying to find things in your day or in your week that give you time to switch off and have a break. Because when we're stressed, we're activating our flight and fight mode, and that's affects our body in certain ways. It affects all the chemicals and the hormones that are flooding around our body, and we're trying to find things that flip us into the opposite state, which is our rest and digest, recovery system, and doing things that relax us does that. So reading a book, having a bath, having a laugh with someone, knitting, doing some craft type thing that just takes your brain out, that means you just get a break. That actually changes the physiology and the systems in your body that are working to give you a physical break from all the stress hormones that are being pumped around your body. And so if we can increase the amount of time that we're feeling not stressed, then that's going to help manage or mitigate the effect of that time that we are stressed, and we're eventually going to sort of bring that balance, get a little bit more balance. We're supposed to be switching between both stressed and not stressed states. That's normal, but our modern lives mean that we spend too much time in the stress state. So we're just trying to bring that down by finding little moments in the day where we can rest. And doing stuff on your phone doesn't, even if you think you're relaxing, it actually creates stress. So phone's not in there. Next one is getting help. Now, this is tough, but I'm going to say it just to provoke thoughts. do we have to suffer in silence? Can we be braver about what we're going through and speak up how we're feeling and see if we can get support from partners, families, and colleagues? Women can take on an awful lot. We can suffer in silence. We can do more than our fair share. So that's also an option, to be able to look and get support, get help. And then the other one is us putting ourselves under pressure, So asking yourself, are there things that you can let go of to ease the load? Women can hold themselves onto such high standards. And if holding yourself to those really high standards is affecting your well-being or your ability to sort of be in the moment, enjoy the little nice things in life, then you have to ask yourself, are maintaining those standards worth it? In the end, you're going to lie in deathbed and wish your house was cleaner. No. Maybe I will, it's that bad. No, I'm joking. But seriously, it's, can we take the pressure off ourselves in any way? So there are 4 ways of thinking about stress. And then just the last few things is, we're playing the long game here. And I think having this mindset of this is really, really valuable as well, because those small changes they really add up, and they're much more likely to be sustainable for the long time. We're trying to rewrite decades old conditioning, things that our parents grew up with, that we've replicated. We're trying to break old patterns, we're trying to create new habits, and all the time we're doing this, we're trying to do it while we're keeping everything else going in our lives, and that's hard. When you try hard and you're really intensely trying to be on your diet, do all your exercise, get all your steps in, manage your stress, that can actually be counterproductive. And that sort of intensity of effort and making it hard and it being a struggle can just make it not work. Whereas actually trying to step back, take some of the pressure off, focusing maybe on just the most important things. Had a really good conversation with someone yesterday who, again, like all of us, was well into January and not, just getting back into a few things, had done a couple of workouts and then had felt like saying to a colleague she would go out for 10 minutes for a walk, and they did. And that's a perfect example of small things, little changes that you make that are small, like making a nice meal for yourself, doing a workout. They can then start to spin off into other things that start to feel easier to do. So it's almost like that rolling stone gathering moss. Instead of trying to do everything, you're just trying to focus on one thing, and that almost becomes a gateway into the next one that you build on. You have a great breakfast. It makes it, you can make that as a single decision, and that can make it easier then when it comes to lunch to want to carry on, or to go and have a 10-minute walk after your lunch. But you've not tried to you've not had a plan to do those 3 things. It just starts to become a little bit more organic, because you're not putting pressure on yourself. You're doing small key things, and that makes it sort of paves the way for other things to start to happen automatically. And then when that happens, it doesn't take a lot of effort. It feels easy, and that's what we want. Okay. So I'm going to leave it there for now. I just want some of those messages to percolate in your brain and see if things resonate, and help you just with your, feel okay about January with where you are now and what you've done so far and how it is for you. And we can pick up on some of the things around goals and getting into more detailed plans and things to focus on in future one-to-ones and as we progress over the next few weeks. Okay, so hope that's useful. Any thoughts are always welcome. If anything in this triggers the need to have a chat and a call, then you can always book a call with me or drop me a line and set something up. And if there's anything that you want me to cover in these over the next few weeks, then I'm very happy to do that. All right, have a lovely day, and I'll speak to you soon. All right, bye for now.